My Gavan and Melanine, and well met indeed. I am Arakea Galadirthan, the head of Divide and Conquer, but welcome back to Age of Empires 2. HD. I've got a cracking little game for you today, one that divided a lot of attention in the chat after the game, and certainly in the group. Even people who hadn't played the game chipped in, so it was a good one. It was a lot of discussion. And so I'm eager to see the feedback from some of you who may not have seen the game. Now, I'll just put it onto slower for a moment, just as I talk. I released a stainless steel video on Saturday. I'm uncertain as I record this whether it's going to go up on Monday or Sunday, so but either way, it doesn't make too much odds. But the stainless steel one that went up on Saturday, I recorded on Thursday. And in it, the astute amongst you heard and listened and saw that my computer, my new computer, was coming on the 15th of October. However, the very next day, Friday, whatever that Friday was, 7th of October maybe, I got an email telling me my computer was actually out for delivery. And that it would arrive this Saturday. And it did indeed. It arrived at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I then set about setting the computer up, setting up all the different features, downloading a load of stuff, downloading loads of Steam stuff, downloading a load of programs, setting all my personal preferences, la-di-blah, blah, 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 blah. But also as well, Little Blue Ferret Jess has moved into my home for the next 2 weeks as my parents have gone to China. And this weekend was the first time she was here, so we were doing things on Saturday morning. I had to go and get my hair cut. We're looking after my sister's dog. We had to go take that for a walk. She had to go and do a shop. So I didn't have a chance to do Age of Empires in the morning, and then when I knew the computer was coming, I thought, you know what, screw it. This can be the very first video on my new computer, and that is what I have decided to do. So, when I was saying about how the quality can be better, well, NVIDIA gives you an option of a slider that essentially assesses the quality of the video. The higher the slider, the better the quality, but also the larger the file size. On my old computer, the highest I could go to was 50. I couldn't tell you what they are. MBPS possibly. I might just be making that up off the top of my head, guessing what the letters next to the 50 are. But anyway, it gives you this sliding scale of quality. And on the old computer it was 50, and on this one I can go up to 130. It's almost 3 times the quality of the videos before. So I'm quite pleased to be able to bring you this one. I've opted at the moment for 80. So just shy of twice as good, because I didn't think the back quality was really that bad anyway. So I have increased the quality, so I hope that comes across to you. But on the flip side, on the other side of that as well, is there were some issues with my microphone and the way that it connected to the old computer, which gave it a good sound quality, gave it terrible sound quality on this one. But I foolishly did not test it well enough, and so I actually did record this entire episode on Saturday afternoon, a whole hour's worth of the thing, only to discover that it sucked. The sound quality was atrocious. So I played around with the microphone, played it in a different way, used a different method, and the sound quality now I think is back to very, very good. It's not crackly, it's not anything like that. So here we are. So this is the very first game very first recording on the new computer. That's all I'll say for now. I'll talk more at the end. So let's go back to ×3 so that we get through this. We are playing in 2 teams of 4. I am playing as the Mayans, who I am thoroughly developing a liking for. Son of Imladris to my north is playing as the Byzantines. He is the rated best player in this engagement with a 1604 rating on the Age of Empires 2 player rating scale. The rest of us, most of us haven't played any ranked games, so we're all 1600, although there were a couple of 1500s. Now, he has a 1604 rating. That's why, I don't know if you saw at the beginning, I did say I expect great things from a 1604, son. But there we are. He's on our team. To my south is Aelfrode, playing as the Teutons. Now, I get told quite a lot that I say Teutons wrong, but Teutons is just what we call them in England, I'm afraid. We've anglicised that name hard, as we have done with anything that we adopt into our language. So please do tell me how to properly say it, because I am interested. Is it Teutons, or is it something else? Obviously, it's a Germanic word in origin, which English does have. I mean, English obviously is half and half Germanic, half Latin, really. That's why a language is a bit of everything. A butchering of both. But it is We're more heavily Germanic, obviously, which explains why there are a lot more similarities between German and English than there are between English and French, Spanish, Italian, who all share that same root, of course. But anyway, that's linguistics, totally different. But Eofrod is the Teutons. And finally, to our far south is Mats, as the Spanish. Espanol. He is... Mats and Eofrod have both played before, and Mats is a good player. Eofrod is now a good player. Obviously, I've told tales of him before where he wasn't particularly a good player, but he is now. Mr. Madcap starts out their team, and he's playing as the Vikings. Now, I know what you're thinking. We all went random, and he got very unlucky, but no, he chose to play as the Vikings. So, think on that what you will. But anyway, Mr. Madcap as the Vikings, just to the west of Mats. Now, further around from him, we find... I don't need to do this anymore, as they've now got cartography. We find Shadow Nexus. Shadow Nexus playing as the Magyars. A cavalry nation, really. And he's in a safety position. To his north and in the other safe position is Brasidas, arguably the actual best player in the game out of the 8 people here. Brasidas loves a raid. He loves to raid, but fortunately he doesn't raid at all in this one. I suppose spoiler alert, but it's not really, is it? He is playing as the Horde nation of Age of Empires, the Goths. Of course, the Goths. If you don't kill as many people as you lose, and you're playing as the Goth, then you've done something wrong. And further round and rounding out their team is Jarni, who's playing as the Britons. And we are playing Oasis, which you might have guessed from the area you could see. There's a large lake in the middle, and it's surrounded by trees. Plenty of trees. So that's the map. Now, most of the action takes place in this area, as you might imagine, as we have just discovered each other. Up until this point, we had no idea, they had no idea we're there, and if we swap over to Son of Imladris, we had no idea they were there until we started scouting about. So we've got a wall, we're getting a wall up. I've got a barracks on the edge there, because of course over here my base is too far away to assist with the barracks. So we're pushing forward. Now, Mats and Eofrod, the southern theatre takes a little longer to get in and is arguably slower, but Eofrod walls off the whole map, which is quite a useful tool in a little while. It gives Mats some protection. But Mats has got these 3 military buildings out there, and he is feudal. Eofrod is feudal. We're all feudal at this point now. But the real fighting, as I say, takes place up in the north here. So we go down to 2. Just trying to drop their outpost so that when they get better sight range, they can't see what we've got. Now, I will stress that when we built this wall, we didn't know that we were that close to their base. But as we had started building the wall, we thought in for a penny, in for a pound, and we just went full with it. So, I sent my Eagle Scouts out to do a little bit of harassment. I love Eagle Scouts. They are so good. We can talk a little bit more about them later as well. What I can just say just now, but I'll say this in every upcoming video. I obviously was going on and on and on and on and on about the fact that I was playing football again, but it absolutely ruined me. I played football as a goalkeeper for almost my entire childhood, right up until the 2nd year of university. So what's that? That was like 21 years. You don't play when you're a baby. 17 years or so. When I was about 5 or 6. 16 or 14, 15 years. 15 to 16 years of solid football. And I played again recently. I played 2 football matches for the team, and I played numerous training sessions, and it absolutely ruined me. I've always had a problem in my right kneecap in that the cartilage has been gone for a long time. I had MRI scans when I was younger and stuff, and it replaces it with a liquid, essentially. But it makes a very horrible grinding noise whenever I bend my leg. But also, it's just quite weak. And playing football and landing on my knee constantly with the diving, I was dead. So dead by the end of it. And so, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, I didn't enjoy it either. I don't know, maybe I prefer the gaming side of it now, and with YouTube taking up a reasonable amount of time, and modding taking up time, and working full-time as opposed to school, where you're kind of only at school half the day, aren't you? I just didn't want to do it anymore. I just didn't enjoy it enough for it to take up the time it was taking up. So I stopped. But the moral of this long story is that I will now be free again on Thursdays and not Wednesdays. But I think I'm going to try and keep the schedule the same, except Thursday and Monday will now be the days off, and Friday will have a video. So that's the difference. It's taken me a long time to get there, but that's where we are. This is my base at the moment. I'm trying to... as always, unfortunately, I'm so predictable because I suck in the early game. I hate devoiding attention to military in the early game because it means my economy suffers late game. And this is something you'll see from all the players. We can turn the fog of war off now. Actually, it doesn't really make any difference in this game. So I try and go hard economy early to get a really solid base. And as we'll see by the end of the game, this is a massive deal. Son of Imlad's got a lot of farms, but he's also got a few military buildings. Now, I try and put a castle down, but unfortunately the range of the British archers just outdoes my villagers, and I can't get that castle up. Additionally, Son of Imladra sends pikemen in to attack these, and foolishly lets the gate open. But Brasidas does not seize on this, so I lock the gate just before they can get anything out of it, and start putting up my own castle. Eofrode as adjutant is a little behind economically, but he's also behind military. He's just behind, unfortunately. His playing style is coming along greatly, but he does need safety for a while before he's up and about. And he's improving still, though. But Eofrode I can't moan about at all, because he's also expanded the group up to Paradox games. So if you enjoy Europa Universalis, Hearts of Iron, and what's the other one, Crusader Kings, then Eofrode has set up routinely, week on week, games of those, and they're taking off quite nicely as well. So I'm really, really pleased, and he's certainly worthy of the directorship that he holds, along with Knight of the North and Grumpy Pirate. They are the officers of the mod, of the Steam group. But Brasidas, seeing that my castle was going up and not being best pleased, sends over a mangonel and drops both my villagers in one go, and that allows Gianni to get his castle up before me, the cheeky buggers. But the fight very much happening up here. As you saw, though, Mr. Madcap did raid Mats's base, but Mats's archers, and then he got a few knights up, meant that Madcap's forces had to retreat, lest they be destroyed. But if we have another look round economically at everyone else, Mats has got a solid amount of farms that you'd expect to see at this kind of stage. He's only got a few villages on wood, stone and gold, but he has just been raided, so keep that in mind. Eofrode again has got one person gathering gold. We've got our market trade up, and that's sort of kicking off. He's only got a few woodcutters though. You need quite a lot of woodcutters to sustain this kind of farm production level, which is the only downside to it. There's my woodcutting supply unit, and there's my farming fields. I'm a big fan of using making it look asymmetrical, and B, using the space in a pattern. I have a rigid pattern that I follow around the town centre. Oh, excuse me, sorry. I've had a cough most of the week, and it just feels like there's something in the bridge between, or not the bridge, in the tunnel between your nose and your throat. It feels like something is in it, but it's not. It's just the walls of it, I think, are slightly enlarged, and it makes it feel like there's something in it. But it's very annoying. Anyway, Gianni does get his castle up, but myself and Son are getting ours up as well. He did attack me with that ram, as you saw, but I got some Eagle Scouts out, and I dropped the ram, because Eagle Scouts are easily a match for the pikemen. The pikemen aren't very good against Eagle Scouts. The Son gets his castle up and drops that mangonel. My walls get upgraded at just a nice moment there, giving the gate a little bit of extra life. And even though he's practically got the gate down, he decides that it's not worth it and pulls his men out. But let's look at them economically. Gianni, he's doing alright as well. It's a goodish number of farms. Not very many on stone. And I'm not sure I can see any on gold. No, he's got gold over here, but he's not using that. Ah, there he is, down there. Safe and away. Brasidas, a good number of farms, although he must place them so quickly that he just doesn't bother to think about the gaps in between. I don't think there's any need to place them that quickly. Brasidas, answer me this. Why have you got these two gaps here when you could easily set it up easier? Oh, no, look, there's a clear pattern to your farm placement, isn't there? Yes. Very interesting indeed. I like that you also use... No, there's a gap just there, isn't there? There's a gap just there. Oh no, oh no, 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 no. You've got the farm placement down around the mill. Well done, sir. Not that I'm anyone to judge, of course. But there is a way that you can get no gaps around a mill, and there is also a way you can get no gaps around a town centre, but it won't look as symmetrical as this. It looks like this. But Brasidas doing well economically, and he's got his second town centre. Shadow Nexus is behind more than anyone else. I mean, that's reflected by the scores. If we pause it at this very moment and just take a brief snapshot, Brasidas is solidly in the lead with 4,400. Madcap on 3,900, taking second place. Myself on 3,600, firmly in third. And then everyone else is kind of grouped together with no one really... There's a grouping between 2,900 and 3,200 of Mats, Aefrode and Jarni, and Son of Imladris. But then Shadow Nexus is behind everyone at 2,600. You haven't got enough farms there, Shadow Nexus. Or should I say, your agriculture is lagging behind, sir. Hopefully, if you do watch that, you know what that means. Of course, I'm only joking. There's no malice in it. I wasn't annoyed at the things you say. But for the rest of you listening, Shadow Nexus in the next game played as my ally. And he gave me a few economical tips as to how to better perform. For example, he told me I needed to build my market. He also told me that my farming was lagging behind at a certain point and could I please pick it up. And I found these things very interesting. And I'll tell you my thoughts, Shadow, because I suppose it's, I don't know, free speech or something. At the point at which you told me my farming was lagging behind, and then certainly by the end of the game, my score was almost 3 times yours. And I found it very, very baffling that you were saying these things to me. Not from a like, oh, I'm so much better than you kind of way, but factually in that game, economically, I was doing better, and yet you were still giving me these like tips. I just don't know. It was weird. Anyway, Madcap is also doing alright. He's got his second town centre as well. He's got a nice castle there, and Shadow Nexus has brought his military to the front line too, as has Mats. But back in the north, castles have gone up, and it's just having a little castle off with Britons there. And I've got a siege workshop, so I'm sending some battering rams in and over. Let's go back to a bit faster. Sun has got some more buildings up to the north, and then there's his farming there. And I got some barracks up. But Jarni has advanced to the Imperial Age, and Brasidas is in the Imperial Age. Brasidas was the first to the Imperial Age, and he uses this to his advantage a lot. As you can see, my castle falls without any challenge. His trebuchets drop the castle. But then Son of Imladris sends out a charge, and he does enough to force Brasidas to flee backwards towards his own home. Not before he takes down my barracks though, and another barracks. But he does go, and maybe he goes of his own accord then, but he takes out my barracks. As you can see, those 2 barracks is gone. My eagle warriors are running out. Died straight away. Stalemate. There's a stalemate in the south now for quite some time. So now, when I recorded this one, it wasn't one that was completely fresh in my mind because, well, it was. We played it on Friday, but I obviously focused entirely on the north. I had no idea what happens in the south until a certain point, and so I was unaware of all of this when I was doing the recording. But now, of course, I know that in the south nothing happens for ages. They just sit there looking at each other for a long time. But Brasidas takes down our barracks, as you can see, our barracks, and then leaves his trebuchets out of range. Now, if we swap and see what he can see, does he know what's on the other side of the wall? How well can he see? Oh, well, he knows that's all there, and he's got 2 trebuchets. Get involved, son. Son of Imladris has gone to the Imperial Age now as well. I'm using his market for trade. I'm getting some Eagle Warriors into my barracks there. I don't believe I am yet in the Imperial Age. No, my university hasn't upgraded yet. Nor is my town centre, for that matter, actually. Right, he's moved his trebuchet round to hit Sun's castle, and so Sun again responds in kind and sends out his cavalry. but they just fall again. The Goths have got a solid production base here now. Keep an eye on the south. Ah, they've made their press. And in the south, Shadow Nexus and Madcap have joined together and are on their way out. Coming for us, you might say. Shadow Nexus, his Magyar Hussars are very, very well suited to supporting the Vikings, because of course the Vikings get very subpar cavalry, and they get very poor archers as well. But they do get good infantry, because they get that health bonus. And also, I do think that Berserk is a cracking unit. I mean, the Vikings themselves are widely considered a poor faction on the land. But the Berserk itself, I think, is a great unit. I mean, it heals itself over time if you leave it alone. Which is really useful. Which is really good. It gets a bonus against building, so they're cracking raiding units, which is what you'd expect. The Vikings being arguably the... Vikings and maybe Mongols being the two most famous raiding nations in history. Along with like the Germanic tribes as a whole, I suppose, against the Romans. But I think the Vikings overall, throughout the whole of history, have a longer history of raiding. Whereas the tribes against the Romans would have raided the Romans 1 or 2, but then when the Romans fell, it was less sort of raiding and more sort of land grabs. So, whereas the Vikings are just constantly raided everywhere. Or maybe that's just because I live in England and we have a history of Vikings raiding, settling, and then raiding themselves. So maybe that's why I think they're famous raiders. Anyway, the Berserk is a solid unit in my opinion. I like it a lot. I think it also looks pretty cool. Just as a sidebar. Aerofrode sends some Teutonic Knights out, but with the archers and the slow moving, there's not enough of them, sadly. Obviously, they are absolute hammers once they arrive, but they're so slow moving, they're perfect for archers to pick off. Although they don't do a very good job of picking them off, and he manages to take a large section of their archer unit down. The Berserks are a lot faster than the champions, but by moving them as a group, they suffer the speed of the slowest unit, the champion, and it slows the Berserks down. But as you can see, Madcap and Hussars and Shadow have no real challenge here. They walk right up through and push into Matz's base, and he pulls back to the Great Wall. But let's swap back up to the north, where we will see that I have now got archery ranges up. Now I know I'm up against the Goths. I'm aware of that, and they're one of the best anti-archer nations, but my archers are so much cheaper in the Imperial Age, which I believe I am now in. No, still not yet. But they're cheaper in each age. And with the 4 archery ranges, it just helps us a lot. It helps us a great deal. So I've gone for archery. Well, my initial plan actually was to build the 4 archery ranges and hope these barracks would survive, and then use the 2 together. But only the archery ranges tended to survive. But Son of Imladris didn't go archery at all, so our 2 armies complement each other quite nicely. But I got 4 archery ranges there, and back within my base I've got even more farms. I'm all about that food intake. Getting a reasonable amount of trade up, but nothing too severe. Should we see what trade... I say severe quite a lot, don't I? Economically speaking, I've got 9 trade units at this time. We'll compare that with Aerofrode, who's got 14. There we are. So in the south, they're just mopping up now. They don't meet any resistance. Mats has got this force here, and it will charge out eventually. But he's already pulled villagers out, and he's building a second base beyond the wall. So he doesn't want to risk these at this time. Oh, I've gone to the Imperial Age. There you go. You get a bigger university, a different roof on your town centre, and the market gets a bit more elaborate, a bit more fancy. Getting a little housing estate with an archery range up here, so that these archery ranges can train, and this archery range can recruit, can research. But Jarni and Brasidas have got us by the throat at this time. Our own wall now acting as a prison for ourselves, and we can't get near to them. But again, it's a bit of a wait moment. Mats does pull his cavalry out, and he doesn't bother risking them in the attack. Shadow and Madcap then begin to take down the houses. Now, something that you don't see in this video that was massively prevalent in the game was we had horrendous lag in this game. The lag between clicking a unit and then them doing what you've told them to do was a couple of seconds. So micromanaging like out of the way of Onaga shots was out of the question. But additionally to that, we had freezing at We had freezing every sort of 8 seconds. It would freeze for about a second. It was a nightmare game. But none of that seems to have come across in the recording. Now the gate falls and Brasidas pushes in. Now what you didn't see, which I should tell you, is just before that I did actually say to Brasidas, why don't you attack us? We've got nothing. Let me just pause it before this. Because Brasidas and Jani are sitting outside our base with all those troops. And at that point I thought we're well and truly out. And in the south, I had noticed that Mats had been destroyed, and I'm thinking, oh, well, crap, we've basically lost this. So I said to Brasidas, why don't you just attack? You're sitting there with this massive army. We can't counter you. And then, just as he attacks, Jani disconnects. He doesn't quit. He doesn't resign. He disconnects. And the whole table's then turned. Brasidas is now completely alone. Even though Jani doesn't have a military to speak of, he would have been adding their support. And at the moment Brasidas chooses to attack, Sun and I double team him, and with the champions of Sun supported by my Eagle Warriors, and then obviously my horde of Arbalists, all with fully upgraded as they can be, I believe. It's just a slaughter, and Brasidas' whole army gets killed. He is supported, however, quite nicely by his Onager there, or Manganer, whichever one it was, which does get quite a few kills, as you can see. That becomes a problem throughout, actually. Brasidas gets quite a lot of siege. But now it's all to play for in the north, as it's 2 versus 1. But Brasidas, of course, is the best player currently, and his score is well, almost double that of Son of Imladris. But I'm not too far behind, 2,000 mob behind. But one massive difference. Look at Brasidas. 5,000 wood, 200 food, 1,500 gold. And we swap to me. 3,000 wood, 4,000 food, 400 gold. I'm behind on the gold, but I've got a ton of stone which can become gold, and my food is soaring in comparison to his. But we swap back to Brasidas. In the south, as I say, they do just mop up. They take ages to do it, but they just mop up. And that's really all there is to that for a long time. So we'll stay up here, where the Arbalists of the Mayans start dropping the units. Now, of course, the Mayans are an archer nation, and that comes across in their cheaper archers. So my archers aren't any better than anyone else's. And indeed, Ethiopian archers 1 for 1 would outdo mine. So would Britons because of their better range. But my archers are cheaper. So it's that age-old argument. Is a higher attack better, or is just more archers better? And almost every occasion, 9 times out of 10, more is better than a single unit that is with a higher attack. He gets some more kills with his Onagers, the cheeky bugger. But Onagers are very flimsy to our arrow fire. I'm not really sure why, but they are. And even though he's killing sort of 5 of those with each hit, with my cheaper archers, I can easily get 5 for his 1 Onager. So it's a good payoff. But Son of Imladris' army has been defeated, and he's over there just mopping up whatever Jani has left. So my Arbalists now stand alone. But of course, the Goths are only good against archers in that their unique unit is the world's best anti-archer unit. And without that unique unit, they're a completely subpar nation against archers, because they don't get a bonus to their archers or their skirmishers. And their strength comes in massing infantry as fast as possible. And of course, halberdiers and champions are both weak to archers. It's the rock paper scissors effect. Infantry is paper and archers are scissors. But knowing that, and knowing that in this equation, of course, cavalry are the rock, Brasidas has changed to get those rocks. And his hussars charge in across, because at the minute, of course, we've taken it. We've now got the gap. The tables have turned indeed. Son of Imladris loses most of his force mopping up what Jani has, but at least there's no threat on that side anymore. And our units solidly plug that gap. Now back in the south, Aerfrod's castle has fallen, but again, they take ages to come up to the gate and come up to the wall itself. But all that stands aside on the other side is a horde of cavaliers, Spanish cavaliers, and a group of Teutonic knights. And the rams and trebuchets move into position. But back in the north, the hussars begin their charge, and the arbalists will just get slaughtered, as you might expect. I mean, the arbalists do good damage, but there's just too many, and the cavalry are too fast, and they drop them. But waiting in the wings, I have these archery ranges on near constant production. I get more and more trade carts to sustain this gold, and I even start moving more people, I think, onto just gold mining. But all the while, I've still got my farms and whatnot. And heavy wood production into the trees there. Now, all that stone I had, I put to 3 castles here, fearing that we would eventually lose out here, because I was uncertain as to Son of Imladris' capability to continue with his unit production, which is a fault on my part, because you did well, son. You did incredibly well. Or you do well. The castles I put up as security back in my own base. Now back in the south, the wall has fallen. The trebuchets move up again to start dropping more of the wall, and rams move in over there. So they're beginning their assault to fully come through the gap. In the north, Brasadas has regained the gap. But back in the south, the Vikings move in. The Teutonic Knights move in to counter, and so do the Cavaliers, and the Vikings charge out, losing a few units. Or not using any, actually, because the Cavaliers then charge out as well. But the Hussars charge in. Now, this is where it goes very unfair for Shadow, because Hussars versus Cavaliers is a poor matchup. Hussar has 105 health, 14 attack, and 2 armor. And the Cavalier at this point has 140 health, 35 more, 12 plus 4, 2 more attack, and 2 more armor. He then upgrades into Paladins, who then get even more health, 2 more attack once again, and it's just a slaughter. The Hussars take maybe 5 down and lose almost their entire battalion. So Madcap and Shadow are forced to push back just for a time, just for a little while. And the Paladins charge in and drop a Trebuchet and then start on the infantry. Back in the north, it's a bit of a stalemate while the Trebuchet drops Sun's castle. And we just train more units. Now, I've kept it on Brasadas because he's the chief aggressor in this engagement. In the south, of course, there are 2 of them, so it's a little unfair. Mats has obviously been forced to retreat, and Aerfrode is not doing too well, I think it's fair to say. And militarily, anyway, I mean, he's got his halberdiers, but those halberdiers are going to die by the 1,000 if they go up against this army of champions and berserks. So, but the halberdiers do alright, as you'll see in a moment, actually. Very uncharacteristically. But Aerfrode's Teutonic Knights really hit home. And I suppose the hope here is to hold them at the wall so that he can get up and get back. But we've charged in again in the north. My archer's picking off the Onager there before it can do too much, but it does kill a lot of us. Brasadas has now got a lot of Huskars. So the tables can turn a bit, as the Huskars will counter my archers, obviously, incredibly well. So it swaps back, and Brasadas returns to favour. But in the south, the victory seems to go to neither side, and there's a bit of a stalemate again. Everyone just kind of looking at each other over the wall. The siege equipment of Madcap and Shadow was destroyed, so they're at a bit of a holding point. And buys Aerfrode and Matt some time. Brasadas moves in, takes out our siege equipment as well. Sun uses his paladins to charge in and drop down his siege equipment. Also, his cataphracts, of course, you'd think the Byzantines would be very good counter to the Goths, because the cataphract's trample damage allows it to attack everything around it. It gets a bonus against infantry already anyway. And so one cataphract can really do a lot of damage. Unless it's up against just like the best, like 10 halberdiers like they are in this instance. If he had a group of cataphracts, they'd do very, very well indeed. But I think the one at a time thing just means the cataphract suffers. I don't know if he has even got the trample damage yet either, so. But with our production being right here and Brasadas being, well, storing up resources at the moment actually, not opting to just set the rally point in our base and go mad, we managed to hold them back again, and Brasadas gains no footing once again. But back down to the south, Madcap has pushed in, and Aerfrode sends his halberdiers over. His Teutonic Knights are now safely in that castle, and Matt charges his paladins in to assist as well. Go back up to ×2. It is actually a slaughter in our favour there, really. The halberdiers trying to lure the enemy towards the castle, but the paladins do all die. So no, it's not a slaughter, it's just that it looked as though it was, but it wasn't. The paladins are shredded. And Matt sends in more, but he doesn't shoot the go for the archers, which is what he should have done. They were unprotected by the infantry then, and he could have got quite a few of them down. But as such, the archers supported by the infantry, the paladins just don't have a hope. Don't have a hope in hell. Back in the north, Brasidas is again sealing the gap. But the halberdiers, no hope against my archers. Absolutely no hope. Halberdiers, the one thing halberdiers fear the most are upgraded archers, and it shows dividends there as my archers just drop them like they're nothing. Avoiding some of those shots quite nicely, and then not avoiding others. But back in my base, something has to change, and it's time to get our real power out, the elite Eagle Warriors. They would be fully upgraded by this point, but I'm getting the barracks ready to train them. Now, in the south, things have gone very awry. With Matz's military now depleted, and Aelfrode outclassed as he only has halberdiers, Madcap is free to start attacking the edge of Aelfrode's base, despite having no siege, save for Shadow's 2 capped rams and his own siege ram. But we return to the north, as the south again is just them now mopping up. So, in the north, the situation... We're holding them at the gap again, but again, Brasidas is going quite heavily on the Huskarls to counter me. But of course, Huskarls counter me, yes, but they don't counter champions. So a Huskarl is 60 HP, 14 attack with 2 normal armor, and a champion is 70 HP, 14 attack with 4 armor. So, overall, they do claim it. They do claim a one-on-one against a Huskarl. And, of course, with the halberdiers being easily dealt with the archers. But then it depends. If the archers waste their time on the Huskarl, you've got to micromanage like an absolute boss. The Madcap completely drops Aelfrode's military buildings, and Aelfrode gets a few mangonels out to assist himself, but some interesting decision-making right then sees the mangonels lose massive effectiveness, as instead of trying to attack, they just charge at the enemy. I mean, he gets some good hits there, some more good hits there, but there was a moment there where they could have done some real damage if he'd spread the fire out amongst the units when they were grouped around the town centre. So one hit here, one hit here, one hit here, then their area of effects would have overlapped and they could have done a lot of damage. Mats chases down the Hussars, who are charging in to deal with what little he has left of his economy, but he's already got his villages in his town centre, he's not risking that again. But Madcap is now totally free to roam Aelfrode's base. Aelfrode has now got his castle alone as his military production. He doesn't currently have another town centre anywhere. Say at the back of his base, sorry. And his base is now just houses in that town centre, but his villages are depleted, his military is depleted, and Madcap and Nexus don't show any signs of meeting any trouble. But swapping back to the north, things are really turning. Brasidas brings over 2 trebuchets and gets down whatever that was. I think it was a barracks. Was it a barracks? Start dropping that siege as well. But incoming in the north, Son of Imlad just comes again with more paladins and more champions. Now against the Goths, I must confess I wasn't 100% paying attention throughout this game. As I said, Little Blue Ferret Jess has moved in for the first these 2 weeks, and she was here yesterday and she was watching TV while I was playing. And I must confess I did find it distracting. And had I been a bit more involved, I would have said to Son, like, get cataphracts. Get as many cataphracts as humanly possible, because they would shred the Huskarls. But as it's doing, our 2 armies combined do enough damage, and Brasidas' forces once again hit very hard. Not enough that we've won outright here, but enough that they can't now push readily. They've got to wait to get more troops again. But now the archeries are working overtime. Now it's the time of just spam the, well for me, macro key 13, which is Shift A in a single button. I'm so pro, don't you know? I've got macro keys set up to train 5 units at a time. I could even set up macro keys to train 15 units at a time. I mean, I'm that badass. Look how poorly they do against the Huskar. Just look at that. It's like each shot is a single point of damage. It's just terrible. It's outrageously bad. In the south, Madcap finally drops Matt's base. Matt's has now got nothing save for paladins down here, along with Aelfrode's Teutonic Knights. But Aelfrode's castle's gone. Aelfrode's economy is completely devoid of life now. He's got no houses either, so if he wanted to train anything, he now can't. So it's difficult now, very, very difficult. Only Madcap, myself, and Brasidas are even into into 5 figures. Me on 15,000, Madcap on 14, and Brasidas on 18. So it doesn't bode well when 2 of their players are in the top 3 players in the game. But this is the point where things suddenly turn. I wanted to do this as more of a surprise than watch them run. My elite Eagle Warriors fully upgraded with our bonus of an extra 40 HP. And just fully upgraded, managed their charge in. Supported by my Arbalists, who are dropping any unit that they can. And when they can group fire like that, they can drop anything in one shot, even if it is, well, Huskar and probably 3 volleys. But with the Elite Eagles in support, we managed to finally win it. This comes from my 6 barracks down here, training. And things take a real turn. Just as Brasidas is building a castle on our side of the wall, my Elite Eagles spawn. Now, the Elite Eagle Warrior is a very interesting unit. The Mesoamerican nations, of course, don't get cavalry. They don't get any cavalry to speak of at all. So this gives them a gap, a massive gap. They're very weak. They don't get the fast scout. They don't get the anti-archer, which is what the role the knight kind of performs. And they don't get like that heavy hitter that the paladin can give you. So all of these units are kind of rolled into one with the Elite Eagle Warrior. They move incredibly quickly, so they get the bonus the scout gets. They have a good sight range, again, the scout bonus. They have really high pierce armor. They are, to be honest, I'd go out on a limb and suggest they have the second highest pierce armor of any infantry unit after the Huskar. Their pierce armor is a solid 8, and a Huskar's pierce armor, I believe, is 10. At the point that Brasidas had his Huskars. Anyway, we need to find one so we can click on it. But the Elite Eagles do eventually go down, but also, as well, I was going to say, the Eagles actually get a hidden bonus against cavalry. So they are a solid all-round unit, with their only real weakness coming in a dedicated anti-infantry. So Japanese champions and the samurai would ruin Eagle Warriors, absolutely ruin them. The Teutonic Knights would damage them a lot. The Slavic champions, if they've got Drzynia, would also do a lot of damage, because Drzynia obviously allows them to attack all units around them, and so the Eagles would get a lot of sort of extra damage from that. But otherwise, the Eagle Warrior is a really all-rounded unit, and that's proven just there as we totally retain that gap. My 60 Eagles all of them pay with their lives, but the damage is done, and we're now right into Brasidas' base, who is now massively behind. 10,000 wood, which isn't that useful to an infantry gen player, 900 food and 700 gold. If we swap over to me, 15,000 food and 2,000 gold. I can outperform him now. I can go for a lot longer than he could dream. I've got 10 times the number of food he's got and 3 times the amount of gold he's got. Also, with obsidian arrows, the unique technology of the Mayans, my archers are quite good against buildings. Now, they're not anything outrageous. It takes them ages to drop this castle, but they're better than anyone else's, so that's always good. Now, this is what I was going to talk about with Aelfrode's halberdiers, and the moment has come. Somehow, he manages to sneak his entire army of halberdiers right past their whole base. All of these castles, he must have gone right round the edge. But how he got past that wall, I don't know. He's gone right through their base, and he's managed to hit these halberdiers in the trade. It's astounding. Although, for some reason, his units aren't attacking whatever they want, and I don't know what he's doing. He's just running around in circles. He needs to just set them onto defensive, put a group here, a group here, a group here, and they'll drop everything. But in the north, the castle falls, and we start applying the pressure. My second batch of Eagle Warriors are running into help. But, of course, in the south, Aelfrode is now out. His base is defeated. Those halberdiers and some Teutonic Knights here are all he's got left. Mats has just got these paladins left. His economy is defeated. And the enemy is now right at my door. And we can't have that. So my plumed archers now come over to assist. Something has to be done, and as the Vikings aren't a particularly good anti-archer nation, I sent over a horde of archers to try and assist. And assist they do, and because he comes at me piecemeal, I manage to just shred him. Now the plumed archer, of course, its bonus is again its speed. They're very fast archers, and that's how I managed to chase down those fleeing archers and take 2 of them down. But the enemy comes at me, and they kind of run across my front, which doesn't help them, as it allows me to hit quite a few units. If we swap to Madcap, at the minute his units have got quite a solid amount of health, but allowing the plumed archers to shoot at what they want rather than targeting gives me a huge advantage here. I'm not really sure what it is. Maybe the berserks and champions are just so poor against archers. But his army gets completely and soundly defeated. And I survive it with at least half of my plumes intact. My plumies. And we then secured our southern border. Although let us all just take a brief moment to mourn the loss of our university. Many brave old people died for that to happen. But a big turning point here is that my gold has been massively hit. My market has been destroyed and my trade has all but been defeated. So now we're resorting to just gold mining for our victory. In the north as well, my army is now purely archers. There are some Eagle Warriors down here, but I haven't got the 60 Eagle Warriors that managed to see us succeed and take down Brasidas' base. And that we do. We defeat Brasidas' base there, his forward point, and we then move over to take a few of Charney's things. But really we're moving over just to line up position here. But there's some Huskarls that I currently can't see as well, that has to be said. I reinforced my plumed archers on the southern border, and they both back out themselves. But our archers and Son of Imladris, we charge in. Of course, my archers getting that bonus against buildings mean that they can take out the houses with no time. And that's what I'm trying to do. People underestimate houses, actually. Without houses, people can't train anything. So it's a really solid tactic to drop houses. But also, Brasidas has got answering forces. He's got troops here in response. But what lets him down is his own building placement. Now, it's nothing against him. The Goths don't get walls, and this is designed to stop the enemy coming in. But because of the way we're positioned on the other side of this housing wall, his units are bottlenecked as they try to get through, and it allows me to just kill them so easily. The archers drop them, and they're laughing as they're shooting these enemies in the face one by one. But with no Huskarls to speak of at this time in this arena, lest little do we know that safely behind his line somewhere is a horde of Huskarls. Ah, they went down to deal with the trade threat. That's where they were. But at the moment, this base and this army has no Huskarls. So Brasidas is really on the back foot now. His base is dropping very quickly. In the south, my plumes move up and they take the fight to the wall as well to keep my base as secure as possible. I do lose a few to that Onaga, sadly, and then a few more as well. But as I say, the lag was so bad, it was almost impossible to micro out the way of them. They'd be dead before the move order even reached them. But we do some good damage, town centre falls, but then the battle turns. The Huskarls arrive. And despite my large force, I just can't do any damage to the buggers. If we swap back, their health just doesn't go down. It just does not go down. And without Son of Imladris, without his champions in any sizable number, they can't stop the Huskarls before my archers all pay with their lives. But Brasidas really teaching on the edge of nothing each time. His food resources and gold resources are just zero. He's out. Economically speaking, you're looking at that player and you're thinking, what have you even got left? How are you still fighting? But in the south, I send out some halberdiers and plumes. So it's now very much, without being too big-headed, it's myself versus 3 players with a little bit of support from Son of Imladris. But in the north, we've lost to Brasidas. We've outright lost. But in the south, I get the advantage. The Vikings haven't got a counter to me at this time. He doesn't change up and get any skirmishers out. And Aelfrode sends his Teutonic Knights into support as well. I really could have done with them attacking the castles, to be honest. I send the halberdiers into the castle, given that there's not really any units to attack. We might as well try and drop the castle. But Aelfrode pulls out, and that's a key point there. Because I can't do enough damage against these, and I lose a lot of plumes and almost my entire halberdier force just trying to destroy that castle. Whereas Aelfrode's Teutonic Knights would kill that castle in no time. Bearing in mind that these 2 castles aren't playing a part. They're attacking the plumes. But realising we're not getting anywhere, I run away. And anything that follows me dies. In the north, Brasidas doesn't siege on his advantage and he just rebuilds. It's peace. There's an unwritten peace in the north for some time now, and finally we can devote our attention in the south. But Eothro does finally move his Teutonic Knights in. He gets some good dodging there of the Mangonels, and he charges the Mangonels with every knight. And they just drop so many. The Onagers, sorry. They drop so many of his knights. And then his knights are caught in a dead zone surrounded by 3 castles, which is where you do not want the slow-moving Teutons to be. And his forces die without really dropping much assistance, sadly. No fault of Eothro's, it's just the enemy countered him well. And we don't get that castle down. But one little halberdier, no! Mats's Paladins. Now, Mats's Paladins have been roaming around trying to probe at weaknesses. They drop a hole in the wall there and they charge in, but they're countered with halberdiers. They do no real lasting damage. They die here, of course. They fight there. The villagers, they probably get a few villagers, but otherwise they pull back out. I see that I had that army doing nothing, and I reposition them in front of the enemy. And I send some trebuchets down to finally assist. And I send the plumes in, which is a bit foolish because we do lose a few of them before I realise that they're rebuilding that. And I need to target all 3 trebuchets on that castle, or we're not going to do anything to it. And we get the castle down. Now, the Vikings counter again, but again, it's units that are not that great. But then the real moment of change comes, the Hussars. Who would have thought the Hussars would be so good against archers? But they are. This group of Hussars, almost independently, defeat my entire plumed army. Obviously, they've got a bit of support from the Arbalists, who do actually do more damage than I do. We do 9 attack. Oh no, they do 9 attack as well. So we're at the same point at the moment, either because the Vikings don't get very good archers, or... yeah, must be. But either way, my plumes are all killed. The Hussars survive the engagement, losing less than half, and they kill all of my plumes. I could try and run the trebuchets away, but against cavalry they're just going to die. So I at least try and just get as many throws off as I can before the inevitable. And in the north now, Brasidas has got a full Huskal army. The perfect counter to what I currently had before. Now, Son of Imladris does have an army, and he's moving out to meet that which comes. But in the south, my army is defeated. My gold is down, I've got no market, and I foolishly didn't build trade, didn't re-establish trade. So it's all now on Son of Imladris for the north to hold us at bay while I recoup. But I don't recoup. And this is the point that everyone talks about in the chat afterwards. I now resign. Now you might think, oh, you resigned way too early. Look at the army that Son of Imladris has got. He's easily about to win. Indeed, I was met with consternation from all. Even Brasidas argued, why did I resign at that point, as I could easily have gone on, was what he suggested. But look at that. Brasidas killed almost Son's entire army, and he barely lost a man. Barely lost a man. He's now countering me perfectly with his archers, and I, of course, am now focusing predominantly on the south. The Madcap and Shadow may not have very much, and may be coming slowly, but they're still coming. Now, Mats has got his paladins, but they're not going to survive indefinitely. In order for this campaign for us to win, in my opinion, Son of Imladris has now got to hold Brasidas off alone. If he can't hold him off alone, we're out, because I'm now fighting 2 enemies. Now, those 2 enemies may be economically behind, and they may not have very many troops. So it may be more of equivalent of 1v1 in the eyes of a purely abject observer. But it's still that 1v1. Son needs to hold Brasidas off, and he just can't. The moral of the story here is that Son, with the way that his base is specced up, and the fact that he's not just trying to get out trash to counter the trash, and he can't anyway because the Huskars will kill his trash, I don't think Son is going to be able to beat Brasidas in the north without my assistance, and if I assist there, I'm going to die in the south. I wanted to play more games after this, so I took the decision that this was lost, let's resign. However, I was met with many people, including people who didn't even play, as I say, thought that I shouldn't have resigned and that we could still have won. So I'd really eagerly hear your feedback. Particularly Grump if you've survived to this point, Knight if you're still there, Talent if you're watching, Jamali if you're even about. I mean, I haven't heard from you in eons, we must have scared you away, or you must not like us enough. But I'd really happily appreciate the feedback of anyone if you think we genuinely could have survived. Or if I was vindicated in resigning early in order so that we could play another game sooner, because there were more people waiting in the wings. Additionally, factor into this that the element with Jarni playing as well, no offense to Jarni, it was just his computer came laboured with the lag problem. He was the issue of lag in this game. And whilst the recording didn't represent that lag, the lag was horrific. And it was I was so ready to play another game where maybe Jarni wasn't involved so that we wouldn't have that horrible lag. On all of those things considered, I think resigning was a good idea. But I'd take your feedback on it. And we can now look at the achievements for a few minutes. So the enemy team do win. Mats resigns, Aelfred resigns. Of course, remember at that point that whilst Mats had paladins left, Aelfred had nothing left. He was out. He was fully out. So I think I made the right decision. Let me know what you think. But if we look at the scores, of course, Brasidas gets the highest score, but I was close second with only 1,000 behind the bugger. Militarily, as I said at the beginning, if you're playing as a Goth and you don't lose as many as you kill, you've done something wrong. So he's certainly on point there. But the Mayans following closely behind with the communist theory and taking down 825 but losing 624 in the process. Between Brasidas and myself, we killed more than everyone else put together. But Madcap made a good showing with 454, indeed raising the most buildings. Then the next unit's lost achiever also goes to myself. So Brasidas, and if it was me on the left, and it was me versus Brasidas, and I could devote all my attention to him, maybe we could have done it, because I could outproduce him. I had so much more wood and food, I could take him to town on trash. And if I built 10 barracks and just constantly spawned halberdiers, he wouldn't get through that gap. But then that would mean Sun would have to take down Madcap and Shadow on his own, which I think he also probably could have done if he'd gone for cataphracts, because his cataphracts would outdo the Viking infantry. But anyway, that's a story for another time. Buildings lost, Mats lost the most, obviously he was the one that was defeated quickest and had to pull back. But he admirably pulled back, did very well in his pullback. But there we are. The largest army was held by myself at 253. Now economically speaking, get ready to praise my name. Wood collected, stone collected, gold collected. Man, tops them all. Now, trade profit I do actually lose to Aelfred. So despite the fact that our trade was hit first and hardest and earliest and fully taken out, Aelfred still managed to get more trade before he went down, which is astounding. Very well done, sir. Food collected, I was beaten by Son of Imladris, actually. Despite that, I had a ton of farms. But he did me. He did me. A full 13,000 more than me. I mean, even Brasidas got more food than me. Which is quite interesting, given that by the end of the game, I think what you probably would see in the food chart of this game is I would have been a solid line like this, going up. And I think you would have seen Brasidas go up steeply like this, and then just bomb and go along like that. So at this point, when he runs out of food, I've still got food. So even though my food is less overall, I had more at the end, whereas they all had more at the beginning. And that's the big distinction there that this doesn't show you. I'm not trying to praise my own horn. I'm just saying how at the end I ended with more food than anyone else, and yet my total food collected was less than 2 other players. I think that's how it came about. But wood, of course, I got the most, closely followed by Brasidas. Stone I got the most, closely again followed by Brasidas, and this time and Shadow. And Mr. Madcap, sorry, at 3,400. Gold I got 2,000, 24,000, closely followed by most players. Aelfred got almost as much, Brasidas got almost as much, Madcap got almost as much. Trade I was a solid 10,000, so I did come in second. And tribute I got, Matt sent me some tribute before he resigned. Now in terms of feudal, Jarni was the first to the feudal, Madcap first to castle, and Brasidas first to imperial. A full 13 minutes before myself. A map explored, Brasidas at 62%, but the research count goes to me as well at the most research. And finally, society, or second to last, sorry, penultimately. I had the most castles thanks to that little castle wall in my base. Relics captured was Brasidas, where he got a lot of his gold. And the villager high was me at 106. 16 more villagers than the nearest competitor. And I mean, Jarni's villager high 54, but he disconnected. Shadow Nex's villager high is 47. Aelfred was 70, not bad. Brasidas at 90. Matt's 63. 86 from Son of Imladris. There's a good showing there. And finally, the timeline, which shows you the distribution. Now, the 2 lines here, in case you're unsure. The lighter line is your villagers as a representation of your total pop. And the dark line is anything military as a representation of your total pop. So, as you can see, Madcap, big villagers here, and then for a long time he has a solid military. Indeed, by about the halfway point, his military outdoes the number of villagers he has, and it remains at that for almost the whole game. This point, I think, must be where Matt's raided his villagers, because both drop down. As you can see, at this point, I have more military and villagers combined than almost Jarny, Sun, and Madcap combined. A huge potential of military there, but it just all gets killed until we then end. Brasidas has the Goths, not as deeply military as you might think, actually, because he's got a solid number of villagers, but then there is a big proportion, obviously, of military there. There's an interesting, like, steep jump here, isn't there? Where it all gets knocked up a bit. Where at this point, Madcap gets just a large increase in his military, and it increases his total pop, which decreases all of these, and it knocks on all the way through. But there we are. And that concludes that one. Now, I don't know when this has gone up. So if it's gone up on Monday, then there'll be a video this Monday, and I'm sorry there was nothing yesterday. And if it's gone up on Sunday, then I apologise it wasn't first thing in the morning. I'm going to try and get it up today. I've recorded it this morning. It's 9 o'clock at the moment, Sunday morning. And I will try and just see if my internet can upload it right now, but I'm uncertain. Who knows? But anyway, so changes coming through the week now is there'll be a video on a Friday, not on a Thursday like they used to be, and all the videos from here on out should be better quality. Do let me know what you think of the quality. Do let me know what you think of my voice. I did listen to this back, tested it a lot, because yesterday obviously I wasted a whole hour on one where the sound quality was terrible. So let me know what you think. Really keen to hear your feedback. But until we speak again, dear friends, Navarin den Perimad Melonin, Queomai, and farewell.